Greetings to you. In the name of God, God of oppressed and God of healing. It is my pleasure to share our stories with you. There are a lot of stories, matters such as continuous marginalization of Indian Tamils, poverty and unemployment in Sri Lanka, destruction of eco-sanctuary, natural environment in terms of smart cities, modern highways and urbanization. But hereby, I would like to focus on how the war victims, Tamil minorities, are continuously suffering in this country. How the religious minorities, Christians, Muslims and Hindus are being suffered. Let's start this presentation with a small video clip about Sri Lanka.
For those who love Asia, Sri Lanka is one of the nicest places on earth. Its population of 18 million includes Tamils, Muslims and a majority of Sinhalese. The island has been compared to the Garden of Eden since ancient times. Earlier known as Ceylon, it has always held conquerors, explorers and travellers under its spell. The world loved to come to Sri Lanka.
Yes, of course. Sri Lanka is very beautiful country, highly gifted by the natural sources, natural environment. But today, this land known as island of blood, island of conflict. Even though Sri Lanka is known as a home for multi-religions, multi-ethnicities and multi-culture, but there is not protection and peaceful environment for multi-religions and other ethnic groups. First, we should understand the oppressive system in terms of Sinhala Buddhist nationalization. In Sri Lanka, the land is very much connected with Sinhala Buddhist tradition. The Sinhala Buddhist nationalists strongly believe and say that total island belongs to Sinhala Buddhist in terms of the Lord Buddha. The Lord Buddha in his lifetime, he came to Sri Lanka 3 times and sacralized for Buddhist tradition. Therefore, the Sinhala Buddhist says this is land for Lord Buddha. But Tamil minorities say, no, the north and east part of the territory historically belongs to Tamil minorities. Furthermore, the Muslim community, they also try to claim their ownership of political power and some territory. Finally, these ideologies, nationalism led to 26 years civil war.
All of a sudden bullets were coming, like firing right into the people.
The government were determined to finish the LTTE off militarily.
Isn't it obvious what we're seeing in Sri Lanka? It's a cover-up. It's an attempt to deny that these things took place.
There has to be a proper investigation, and if crimes have been committed, the perpetrators have to be brought to justice.
11 years ago, on 2009, the war came to end with mass killing, disappearance and capital disaster. The UN and other international organizations advised to government to take a proper step for investigation, reconciliation and rehabilitation. But today, 11 years have gone, but there is no any truth and accountability for war crimes. Rather, the oppressive regime became a political leader of the country. There is no response to the enforced disappearance and political prisoners. There is not proper way of rehabilitation process.
It's Sunday worship at Colombo's largest evangelical church. One of the pastors told me not to film the faces of people in the congregation. They are afraid after attacks by members of what they describe as Buddhist nationalist groups. Video of the attack on his church earlier this year.
Many of you would have come to know of the sad events that took place in Anuradhapura towards the Methodist Center, where my fellow Methodist members have been worshipping for 15 years. During the previous Sundays, They have been prevented. They have been threatened. They have been warned or told very clearly in no uncertain words that you cannot worship in this place.
Violence, mainly against the Muslim community, spread to other parts of Kandy district on Wednesday, fanning the flames of hatred, suspicion and fear.
More than 4 days after the violence started, hundreds of military personnel in place and repeated curfews to control the situation, the flames are still burning. This shopfront, like many other Muslim-owned establishments, being attacked just over an hour before we got here.
It is obvious freedom of religions, human rights promotions and rights of minorities are questionable. Racism, hate speech, violent extremism are become as part of the political system.
Ethnic religious minorities are approximately about 30% of Sri Lanka. So that means the Sinhalese Buddhists are around 70%. So if a particular candidate feels that he or she can become a president, mostly based on Sinhalese Buddhist votes, I think it's not a very nice feeling for a multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious country. This can make our democracy to be a majoritarian democracy.
Hi, now I have come to the concluding part of the presentation. Now Dr. Darshan Ambalavanar has joined with us. He is going to explain how the Church of American Ceylon Mission engaged with war victims and wounded community in order to get the life of wholeness. Particularly after the Easter attack, how the church engaged in the process of the peace building process with Muslim community and other minorities. Dr. Darshan, this is your time.
When the war came to a devastating conclusion, many of the communities of our own congregations lay in ruins, and a key focus of the church was to be a presence with the communities. So our clergy moved back in the process of resettlement to live and work there, to be with people under very dangerous and difficult circumstances. And we rebuilt community programs for children and for youth. So these places also became important community centers and a part of the healing from the violence of the war that the communities had endured. After about a decade of this work, we were faced with a new challenge after the devastating bombings on churches in Easter 2019. In Batiklo, where we have a presence, one of the Pentecostal churches was attacked, and we had to respond to this challenge in the context where churches themselves were a potential target of violence. Reached out to the Muslim community the day after the bombing by visiting them in their own towns to start the very slow and challenging process of rebuilding relationships between our communities, between the Tamil and Muslim communities, which had a long history of alienation, of conflict and misunderstanding, particularly during the war years. Since then, CACM has been involved in constant organizing of conversations and dialogues at the community level and between community leaders that has also brought in leaders from outside of the region.
Thank you very much for this valuable invitation. I hope you should understand how the minorities communities are suffering in this country. The Church of American Ceylon Mission, as a prophetic and participatory church, we always would like to engage with marginalized, oppressed and suffering communities. We are engaging with these people and working for the life of wholeness. Especially our thanks goes to Global Ministry. Thank you very much.